Hi, and welcome to day 6 of the Easy English Fundamentals 7-day course. I'm Mark, founder of Let's Do English. We've got 2 more fluent fast techniques for you today. And let me say that if you take these fluent fast techniques and go implement them, go use them right away, I promise that your English will accelerate and it will take you closer to fluency right away. Okay, they're easy techniques, they're simple, but they're very, very powerful. We've spent a lot of time putting these together and researching them. So use these and you'll find that your English really starts to accelerate. Fluent fast technique number 5 is define words of your passion. Define words of your passion. Now, what do we mean when we say define words of your passion? And wait, isn't that the opposite of fluent fast technique number 4, which was hear clusters, not words? What do you mean define words of your passion? Well, here's the deal. Some vocabulary is important, okay? Many words in English sound nothing like the words that you use for that same thing in your language. So the word dog, for instance, probably sounds very different in your language, and you can't guess it because it sounds so different. You can't even really guess it or fake it. You kind of have to know what the word is, okay? But which words do you need to know? Which words do you define? Well, you define the words of your passion. Let me tell you a little story. When I was younger, I used to teach workshops on building with earthen materials. I used to teach natural building workshops. And I kind of told this story before, but this is a little different spin on it. When I was invited to Mexico to go teach a natural building workshop on building with adobe and cob and some other materials. And so I went to Mexico for a couple of months to study Spanish, and then at the end of the course, at the end of my time in Mexico, I was going to teach a workshop. Well, I traveled around and studied Spanish quite a bit. I studied textbook and vocabulary, grammar, syntax. And then I said that I also started dating my Spanish teacher in Guatemala, and I picked up a lot of Spanish there. But when I got to the building site at the end of my trip, after a couple of months of studying, I found that even though I knew Spanish pretty well, I could actually speak and converse pretty well, I didn't know any of the vocabulary of building or construction. So I didn't know what the word for roof is, or walls, or floor. And so even though I spoke Spanish okay, I didn't know the vocabulary of the thing I was passionate about. And it actually was kind of a problem. I mean, I was there trying to teach, and I didn't know the vocabulary of my passion. So here's how this all starts to tie together and kind of tie into each other. And here's how we build a larger kind of system, okay? When you devour American movies you love, technique number 1, we learned a few days ago. When you devour American movies you love, and then you kill books with video, right? Another technique that we learned. Well, you're going to be watching American movies you love, and you're going to, when you kill books with video, you're going to be watching video that you love, that's of your passion, that's fun for you, that excites you. Then write down the words that you don't understand. Okay, when you're in that realm of your passion, when you're learning what you want, maybe what you're learning is surfing, or maybe you're learning about the human body, maybe you want to be a nurse, and you want to learn English for that, and you're learning about the human body. anything, whatever your passion is, while you're learning it, when you come across words you don't understand, write them down. Create flashcards with them. Make a list and put it on your phone. Okay? Create bookmarks to websites that are websites that have to do with your passion, and write those words down. Create flashcards. Okay, you define those words, you write down the word and then the meaning, of course. And then when do you study those words? You study the words when you steal time for fluency. Remember? So you devour American movies you love, you kill books with video, you write down the words of your passion, you define the words of your passion, and then you study when you steal time for fluency. See, it's a whole system. That's how it all starts to fit together. And you see that at every level you're having fun. You're watching video, you're watching American movies that you love, you're studying your passion, and then the boring times during your day when you're bored and you're waiting in line, then you can pull out those flashcards, pull out that list, and study then. Okay, so define words of your passion. Okay, here is Fluent Fast technique number 6. Leverage your effort through feedback. Leverage your effort through feedback. Now, this has taken things to the next level. I would even call it the Jedi level. If you remember Star Wars, Luke Skywalker, that he wanted to become a Jedi, which is just an absolute master. Well, for you to master English, you have to leverage your effort through feedback. What I'm talking about here is getting a tutor, getting a mentor. Ideally, the tutor and the mentor are the same person. Okay, and an English tutor, someone that you can talk with, have conversations with, one-on-one, bounce ideas off of, and being a mentor or a coach, they will actually hold you accountable and make sure that you do it, that you're studying, that you're doing the other Fluent Fast techniques. To talk a little bit more about that, let me tell you a story from way back when. When I was a lot younger, I used to go to a little cafe in the town that I grew up in. And it was the one place in town that I really loved. There were always musicians there, there were poets, there was good food. And one night I went and I was there having a meal, and a man was there. He was a bass player, you know, do, right, playing upright bass, stand-up bass. And he was a phenomenal bass teacher. Well, he was a phenomenal bass player, and I listened to him and was just absolutely blown away by this guy's playing. He was a jazz bass player. Well, a couple of years later, I had started to play bass and went to college to study bass, playing the bass guitar. Well, it turns out that this guy was a teacher, and he became my bass teacher there in college. And he told me something very valuable and very interesting, and it relates to this lesson of leverage your effort through feedback. He told me, he said, "Mark, let me be real clear about something. If you want to learn to play bass really well, if you want to learn to do anything really well, but if you want to play bass well, your study that you do, the theory that you've studied, the textbook learning that you've done so far, will only get you so far. Okay, you're going to hit a ceiling, and you can't go past that. After you get to that place, you have to have a one-on-one teacher to be able to go up to the next level. You have to have a tutor, or you can't do it. You can't go past this place. You have to have a tutor to get to this place." Now that's kind of a powerful lesson in and of itself, and that's actually what my point in telling that story is. I'll tell you one little hint that he gave that's applicable here. It's very powerful. He said, then the third level, if you want to learn to be a great bass player, after you've gone as far as you can go with a teacher, is to perform in front of other people. If you want to become the best bass player you can be, the only way you can reach that higher level is by performing in front of other people. Now, I've thought about that a lot over the years as I've learned and I've studied learning processes. And I think what that relates to is it's like human psychology. I think it relates to behavioral psychology and the fact that, and you know, we all kind of know this, is that when you're in the presence of another human being, you try harder. Okay? If you're at home studying and reading off your phone and watching video, and you can get pretty far, but you can only get further if you study with a teacher. And then after that, you can only get further if you go out into the world and actually talk to English-speaking people. You put yourself in the fire, so to speak. You kind of dive in with both feet and go to a town where everybody speaks English, or come to America. And then your English will really start to accelerate. But the bottom line on that is that to take your English to the highest level it can be, you definitely need an English tutor that you can have a conversation with. Now, what are a few ways to do that? Well, there are some English-speaking people in your town that you can go meet with. You can set up an appointment. They want to learn your language, and you can do a language exchange. That's one way that you can do it. A second way that you can, a second and even better way, is to work with a tutor in your town that can tutor you on English, one-on-one. That can be pretty expensive. Number 3 is that we have tutors available as well. And our tutors at letsdoenglish.com are trained not only as tutors, but also as mentors. And I don't know if you know what a mentor is, but a mentor is really powerful. A mentor is someone that not only will teach you, but they will also hold you accountable so that they'll just insist that you perform. So at Let's Do English, we have tutors available. We use an internet connection to have a one-on-one meeting over the web. We can schedule it for your local time zone. And if you want to do English lessons with a tutor with Let's Do English, like I say, we're available for that. Just get in touch and we can discuss that. But let me say that the importance of this lesson can't be overestimated. Okay? If you want to learn English, you have to use a tutor. Ideally, that tutor is also a mentor. Okay? You can only get so far with materials that you have online. Even with our materials, without a tutor, you can only get so far. Okay? So whether you work with us, a tutor in your town, a language exchange with another student, whatever you do, leverage your effort through feedback from another person. Okay, that's the end of today's lesson. We learned a couple of pretty powerful techniques today. Number 1 is define words of your passion. So when you're in your passion, when you're watching video, write down those words, carry them around with you, and study them when you steal time for fluency. And technique number 2 that we learned was leverage your effort through feedback. Find a tutor, find a mentor, pay them, do whatever you have to do to make the most of the effort that you've already put into it. I mean, you've studied for years. You're going to study with our materials. You're watching this course. Leverage that effort through getting feedback. Okay? Thank you so much for tuning in today. Tune in tomorrow for our interview with cultural creatives. See you then.